Hi, welcome to Bright Hope Creations. I'm Kara, and today is our third video in a three-part series on coloring up this Christmas bakery, which is from Purple Onion Designs, and it is illustrated by Stacey Yacula. It is part of her The Sweetest Little Town release. Now, I have to confess that I lost some of the footage here, so I did do a little coloring prior to what I have here, but not to worry, we're going to go through some of the same techniques and you really haven't missed anything. And this is kind of a longer video because there's a lot to share with the background. All right, so bunting is cool gray and also RV 52 and 55. I made sure to get gray on everything up there first before I came in and started putting in the pink colors so that I didn't have to come in with gray and perhaps touch that pink while I was trying to blend out the white stripes of that. All right, and touching on some of those little cakes and just needing to put a little color there. I'll come back in with some cool grays for those as well. And now I'm balancing out the pink color inside the bakery by making those chairs pink. And the shading on here will be where the darkest is in the front. So the light from inside the bakery is hitting those chairs, and so it's a little darker in the front. At least that's what I've decided for these chairs, and just blending that together then. When I'm trying to decide the colors of a piece like this, I go with what I know first. So I knew I wanted a blue mailbox because in the United States they're blue. And so then I wanted to balance that down. You can see the squirrel on the bottom. He has a blue scarf, so it kind of balances a little bit. Now here I'm putting in a red door. One thing with reds is if I have something that's red and white, like that scarf on the penguin, I want to make sure those white parts are shaded first. I even did that on the bunting so that I wasn't picking up the red color if I was trying to work on the white that's very close by. But anyway, so I have a red door and red on his scarf, and there'll be a few other red little bits around, but everything that I'm putting into the scene, I'm also putting onto the Christmas tree. So it will have the pink and the red and some aqua blue as well. All right, so on to creating this scene. I'm just deepening up the lines of my sidewalk and then coming up the curb, and I'm starting dark at the bottom with the C2, and I'm using that kind of feathering technique again so that I don't have a strong line, because if I have just a straight line across, it's more difficult for me to ink blend that. So now that I have the C2 down, I can blend up with the C1, and then I can kind of softly define that curb there with that. And I'm going to define the curb on the other side as well. Now there's two lines there, but I'm only going to use the one line. And now it's time to put in the snow. So I'm starting kind of light with a C0, just deciding where I want to put in kind of like the shadow of what would be snow. And there's no real science to this. I think it's just a matter of trying to balance it out. If I make some curved lines near the objects, like if you can see on the lamppost, it kind of makes it look like the snow is higher up than the lamppost, and it gives it that fluffy look. And I'll do that on this side of the street as well, getting under that step stool and things like that, but just also just balancing it out from on one side of the card to the other. Also made that line that I didn't want to be the curb, kind of used that too as some snowy shadows. Now I'm using the same C0 to start the sidewalk, and the sidewalk is going to be a gray cement. So I'm coloring right over those lines that define the cracks in the sidewalk so that they kind of blend together a little bit. And now I'm going to take a C1, so just a step darker to get into that corner. So where that door opens, and then also on the sides where it's a little darker away from the lamp, I want to darken that up and blend that back out a bit. Just kind of make sure that it's clear that this is sidewalk. And that also helps define the snow that's on the side of the sidewalk, kind of makes that look whiter. So I used a C2 to darken up the corners a little bit more, and now I'm blending that out with the C1 and just defining things a little bit, especially where that sidewalk is coming away from the snow itself, and then under the awning where that door recesses in. And I think that's pretty much sidewalk done. All right, well, I'm going back to where I had those lines for the snow, and I'm putting in a BG 000, so pretty light here, and I'm giving it the idea that this is snow. It's reflecting some of the light from the sky, and it is certainly cartoon. I mean, I'm not trying to make this look exactly like snow. I'm trying to make us give you the idea of snow here. So that's why I use that. And I also now I'm coming in with a C1 to darken up some of those shadows. Now that I like where they are, I can add in a little more depth to them. And then once I have that depth, I'll blend them out a little bit with a C0. Now, once I have the snow on the road, I may come back and either darken that up a little bit or try to blend that a little bit more, but we'll see once I have the rest of it in there. Well, let's get started on this road. So I'm going to start by making some lines down the center, and those are going to be the tire tracks. This is a one-way street because I didn't think there was enough room on the street for 2 tire tracks, according to the size of my animals. I started very light with the C0 to make sure I liked it, and then I came in with the C1 to darken it up, and now the C0 to kind of put in the snow that's in the road as well. And the road is going to be a little darker than the snow on the sides because, well, there've been cars going through there, I guess, but also it's a little, I want it to look like it's down a little further than up on the curb sides. So getting in that BG 000 and finding those same lines and just coming back with it over the C areas, the cool grays. One thing that I do to change the kind of the brush stroke that I'm using with my markers is the way I'm holding the marker. You can see here, I'm holding the marker back on the barrel, not right up by the tip, and that gives me the kind of a fluid way of blending. When I have my hand right up next to the tip, it's because I'm doing something detailed and trying to get a really fine line or a real strong line right there. But here, I'm just feathering things out, blending things out. So I'm using it more like, I would say more like a brush by having my hand further back from the tip. It kind of gives me a little more freedom there. Just getting the shadows to come off the curbs on both sides. And like I said, this road is going to be a little darker, just like that dingy road snow that we get. And I'm really just going to keep going back and forth with my markers with the BG 000 and the C1, 2, and 0 to give these this road, get it more defined and look like the snow. And that's the nice thing about Copic markers is they layer so well. All right, now I've decided, all right, I really want that depth of that curb there to be defined. And so I put in more of a strong line at the bottom, but then feathered up from there and that helped the road to look like it was darker as well, I think. Trying to keep those lines for that the cars have driven on still there, but also wanting them to look a little slushy, like they're part of the snow that's in the road. So it's going back and forth there. And I'm showing all of this because I just want to show you the back and forth that I do to get that look. And back onto the curb, making sure that's blended well. And back on the snow on this side of the street. And our snow is done, and we're going to move on to the buildings. And you can see I put in a brown side to the building on the upper part, and I'm trimming it out with the YG03 and also YG17 as my darkest underneath the snow. I do go in and I shade all these windows and everything, but I feel like now that I'm looking back at the completed card, I would have taken that brown, which was an E30s, so it's E31, 33, and 35, and I would have taken a dark E and really gone under that snow, maybe about, I don't know, a quarter inch down to make it look like that snow put some shadow on top of the building there. But that's always hindsight. I always see what else I could do after I'm done. But that's how I learn too, is to take note of those things, and maybe next time I'll do that. I'm putting in some glare for the glass. I will come back in later to do some more on the glass up at the top, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with those windows, so that's how I started that. Now, I made that top brown of that building and also brown on the building next to kind of balance that out. I have that brown bear down at the bottom, so I thought I'd put that kind of balance there. I don't know if it needed to be brown. I think I could have gone with something else, but it looks okay. It's kind of neutral, so it's giving the interest to the pink and green of the bakery itself. So I do add some wood to this bakery as well, so wood color. So we have a shelf and the table in wood, and I'm putting in some shadow. So I started with an E30 and then went to an E31, but then I darken it up with that E33 just to make sure that it has some real definition to it. So the darkest is by the street again, because the light is coming from the inside of that bakery. I'm putting in a few details into the glass of the pedestals, and there's that cool gray coming in to shade up some of those cakes, those little details, trying to round them out a bit. And then decided my other cakes were going to be decorated with red, to add in a little red in there. And I'm using an R37 because I'm not really going to do any shading with that. I'm just getting those touches of color in there. And at this point, I can decide finally what color I want to do the bakery sign in, and I decided on red. Again, I think I would have changed that, but I wanted to balance out and give that red to go throughout the card, and so it wasn't a bad choice. It's just, I don't know that it was my best choice there. But anyway, I'm shading it in, making it look as though it's in a little further than the trim around it, trying to give it some shading right up close. And I do touch the green with this red. And so once I have this all shaded in, I go back with the green color for the trim and just kind of go back and forth with it. It helps to kind of disperse that red out of there a little bit. I'm not saying that it's totally gone, but that is how I will go back and try to take one color out of another. Sometimes I would take my colorless blender to do that, but I found that it was easier to take the color that was in there to try to get it out. All right, just shading up with the lightest color, the R24, and here it is. Here's where I'm coming in to try to get a little of that red out of my green trim. And it works just fine. All right, this sky is a BG 000 to start, and I wanted it to be kind of dusk, so it's evening. I have the idea that the lantern is on, but it's not really glowing a lot. You're not needing the light from the lamp or the storefronts to see anything, so kind of still have that light of day going on there. And so this B21 combined with the BG 000 is kind of giving me that effect. And we know there's that BG 000 in the snow, so that's the reflection from the sky. And there is B20s in the mailbox and in the scarves and those different blue accents. All right, a little bit of a yellow glow in the neighbor's store. And I'm using this BG 18 to define the wreath that's on the door a little bit. A little blue-green on the wall inside the bakery. Give it a look of, some definition to show that that is a wall that comes out a bit. And I'm putting some colorless blender there too, just to make it filter out into white. And then I decided I want to go a little darker with some of my snow. So just kind of define that a little bit more. Once I have everything colored to this degree, I can go back and see what looks like it needs a little bit more. So under this mailbox, I think that it could get a little darker. And then by the mouse, and here I'm starting to put in the shadows. So I'm starting with a C1, and I come out from his legs, and then, oh gosh, just kind of like a little blob up to show that his body comes after that. And there's our mailman. I'm very timid about shadows at first, so you can see I didn't do the lantern yet or the mailbox. I'm down here getting the squirrel and the bear figured out. And, oh gosh, I don't know, I just, a blob, kind of put a blob out there. Once, you can see I'm using a 0 now, because this makes me a bit nervous. So I try it in a light color, and then if I like it, I will darken that up. I also don't put shadows exactly like I know shadows should be. For example, if that window was bringing out that light, that Christmas tree would be dark on this side, and the shadow of the tree would cast over the squirrel and the bear. It would look much darker there. But I'm going to say that there's light on this side of the street as well. All right, putting some more shadow in, getting a little bolder there, and getting the mailbox taken care of, and the lantern as well. And I'm back down on the front here with the bear and squirrel, and I'm going to bring it out. So that was a C1, and now with the C0, I am giving a bit of shadow to that tree. Yeah, that might be something I would do on the next card, is to say, okay, the front of that tree is going to be dark, but it's going to be lit. How am I going to do that? Always kind of a fun exercise when you've got light on your card. Well, here I'm decided that the windows on the top are going to reflect the sky. So they are getting some BG 000 now with the B21, adding that, and then I'll blend that together, and and that will be the reflection from the evening sky. I guess I wasn't sure if I wanted those windows to be dark, like there wasn't light in them, but I thought that the reflection would be a nice way to not make too much of the focus being on these dark windows up top. All right, well, I am darkening up the snow at the very top to show that the shine is coming from the store and the lamp. And so now blending that into the rest of the snow as it comes down the roof. I also used some of the cool grays in the windows just to give a little shading to that. So going from a C0 to a C00 in those windows there. And then I come back with that BG000 to put in a little bit more reflection into that window and on some of the glass in there. But a little more accepting to the fact that there's a glare on those windows, and that's why I kind of left them to the end. Well, looking over everything now, I can see that this mailbox can get a little darker. It was looking a little bland and kind of blended into the background too much. I wanted it to stand out a bit more, and so just shading it a little bit more, giving it some interest because it is part of what's going on in our scene. So with the B26, 24, and 21 coming back in and then giving it that final detail with a little red emblem at the top. Well, it's all finished now, and all that I have left to do is to put some adhesive on the back and attach it to a 3.5 by 8.5 inch note card. And this card is all done. I hope you enjoyed this video series and that it inspired you to maybe make a scene of your own using stamps from Purple Onion Designs. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye!